finally released and it's out for 20 buckaroonies. It's not in early access. This is the full release. And oh boy, I've got a lot of things to say about Don't Stop Girly Pop. So let's start with the story.
Conquers all.
And the story is kind of unique in a way. You play as this super soldier of the fairies. I think that's what they are. I think they are fairies. And of course, some big corporation has invaded your planet. And naturally, you need to push these corporate sons of bitches back by killing them. What else? Why have they invaded your planet though? Well, they are there to steal all the love from the planet because that's some sort of fuel for them. So yeah, we gotta kill them all. And on our first attempt to do so, we actually die. 5 years later, we're back in action, stronger and faster than before. And along the way, we meet some characters and we get to see some kind of memories-ish. I don't know what to call them. They're not memories because we were actually dead, but we get to see flashbacks from what happened during those 5 years that we were gone. And what happened essentially is that the corporation invaded more and more and they were unstoppable. And honestly, when it comes to the story, the voice acting of it is great. It's really well voice acted. You got Gianni in there amongst others, and we even have the developer of the game as well. And they all do a really good job at delivering the lines.
Ember, it's been 5 years. The invasion, what happened? Are the fairies okay? We need to get a move on and figure out what is happening.
But I do think that the actual writing is really bad in the game, and that of course made my interest of the story extremely weak. I had absolutely zero interest whatsoever, and a lot of that probably comes down to the theme of the game as well. It just doesn't really appeal to me, and it feels extremely unserious. For me. Emphasize for me. That said, I do like how the story is presented in one specific way. It's completely skippable. If you don't care, you can just hold R and skip all the cutscenes and dialogue, and that's actually a really nice touch. I, however, didn't do that. I tried to listen to everything, look at everything, but I didn't find it very interesting to be honest. And I was really missing some proper cutscenes. You only get dialogue between the action and you literally just stare at an empty screen when they talk. And that's it. And yeah, that's pretty much all that I have to say about the story as well. Now, let's move on to the gameplay. Because this is where things get very, very, very mixed. But before that, we need to at least touch on the elephant in the room, which is the presentation. This game is very girly Y2K, I think that's what it's called, aesthetic. Everything is pink, there are hearts everywhere, and it's all about love and killing. There is gore in the game technically, but it's pink. And enemies, they don't really look frightening at all. On second thought, let me return to the presentation in a bit. I got quite a lot to say about it. Now, gameplay-wise, we get 25 levels to play through. Some of them are just boss fights, some of them are literally 1 or 2 rooms filled with battles, and then they are done. In general, the levels, they go by really fast. You will finish this game in about 4 hours, maybe 5. And honestly, I think that's a bit of a shame considering that the game is actually 20 bucks, especially when there's basically zero replayability to it. Yeah, there are secrets to find, and they are pretty cool. But they are also extremely easy to find, so you'll probably see them without even trying to find them. But as I said, they are pretty cool. You can unlock like center vision for your weapons or some Duke Nukem lines voiced by Gianni, which is, it's cool, but there's absolutely no effort involved in finding them. So the replayability in finding all the secrets, that's gone. Then there is no endless mode, no boss rush, nothing like that. You got the campaign, different difficulties, and that's it. For 20 bucks. And honestly, with the little variation and things going on in the game, 4 hours just feels a little too little for a game like this. And I want to emphasize that generally I don't mind a 4 to 5 hour game. Time is not something that I have a lot of, but if a game is that short, it has to be sweet, it has to be good, it has to be memorable, and it absolutely cannot be filled with fillers. Unfortunately, that is exactly what happens here. The game is basically get locked in an arena, kill everything, move on, next arena, get locked in, kill everything. It is the bolt gun style loop, but without enough variety to support it. Enemy variety is very limited. You got 3 stronger elite enemies with unique attacks than the cannon fodder. One with a hammer, one without. And then you got a sniper enemy that grapples between walls, and that is pretty much it. That's not enough for a full game. And weapon-wise, it doesn't help much either. You got 6 in total. One that pulls props towards you and lets you throw them, which you will barely use at all. Then you got a shotgun, an SMG, a sniper rifle, a rocket launcher, and 1 super weapon. Some of the weapons, they have alternative fires, not all of them. And look, the weapons, they are fun, they work, but they are ugly as hell, and none of them really stand out in how they work or how they feel. They feel like weapons that we have used 100 times before, and with little work, love, and care actually put into them. But I did say that some of them have secondary fires, like the SMG that has a secondary fire which shoots bubbles, and you can even trap enemies inside of those bubbles. It's kind of like goo, you shoot it again and it explodes. It's cool, but it's not very effective, and it's not unique, so it doesn't end up being memorable nor very fun to use in the end. And that's how all the weapons end up in a nutshell. All of that negativity though, there are a few special moments in the game. There are some light platforming sections where you jump, use a grappling hook and grind rails, but they're never used in any interesting way. So back to the negative. When platforming actually shows up, it should feel integrated and awesome. Here, it just feels like a small side distraction, and that is also a real shame. Speaking of which, speed, it is everything in this game. You constantly have to move, for the faster you move, the higher your damage multiplier increases. And that thing goes from 0 to times 15, which of course makes a huge difference. And there is a special move in the game which gives you a massive speed boost. That is, slam to the ground with crouch, jump and then dash. Repeat that over and over as you're combating foes to gain the max damage. It is fun for about an hour, and then it just gets very annoying, having to do that all the time non-stop. I feel like the arenas, they should have been much more better designed with speed in mind. Sure, the arenas, they are very open, so there is enough space to do the trick and fly around in the air, but there isn't enough grappling points, there isn't enough rails to grind, or they aren't well placed enough, so you end up not using them anyway. The arenas overall could have been much better done. And then there is the UI clutter. Holy crap. You got this massive damage multiplier on the right side of the screen, the biggest one I've ever seen, and it is so obstructive. I hate it. You can't resize it, you can't remove it, and I don't understand why. On top of that, the visuals are extremely shiny, lens flare heavy, and sometimes straight up blinding. It can be genuinely hard to see the enemies. And it almost feels like the developers knew that because enemies have hearts and stars around them to mark them, to help you see them. The problem is, the hearts and the stars don't read as enemies, it just adds even more clutter to the screen. Now, even with these enemy outlines, white or green they often blend into the environment because of how bright and noisy everything is. There were moments where I was running around for a full minute just trying to find the last enemy so that I could unlock the arena that I was locked in. It is a cluttery mess, and I am not exaggerating here. You see it on screen as I'm talking to you right now. But I also understand completely what kind of a style the game is going for, and I respect games that try something unique. I genuinely do, even when it's not for me. I want more games to take creative risks just like this one. But the presentation here is just not well done in my opinion. They could have kept this style and executed it way better. It could have still been visually pleasing for the eyes, even if the aesthetic isn't my thing. Instead, it's more painful to look at than anything else, and it actively makes the game harder to enjoy. Performance-wise though, the game does run well. It's built on the Unreal Engine, and performance-wise I had no real issues at all. The audio is also quite solid. There are custom soundtracks to the game, very girly pop, and I think they made it themselves. I think, the developers that is. And it fits the tone of the game super well. There's also some customization to the game. You can add props to your weapons, change colors on your hands, arms and weapons. I didn't go too deep into it because it didn't feel very impactful for me, and I didn't really like most of the color options, but it's there if that's your thing. I did, however, run into some bugs. I got stuck a few times, especially during platforming sections. Jumping, it felt quite inconsistent in times, and collision detection felt unpolished. There are ledges close to where you're supposed to land sometimes, and sometimes you can climb up on those ledges, sometimes you simply can't. It just didn't feel very properly tested in that regard. So do I think that Don't Stop Girly Pop is worth 20 buckaroonies? No, I definitely do not think it is. And I want to be very clear, that's not because of the art style or tone of the game. I genuinely respect what the game is trying to do. I want more games to be bold and creative like this, but unfortunately, this one just isn't well executed. And because of everything I've talked about here, I didn't have an enjoyable experience. Well, let me know what you think down below, and Papa Slim, he loves you very much, and he will see you in the next one. Over and out.